Get the 411 on outdoor warning sirens. Know your parish. Our outdoor warning sirens are owned and maintained by the Waterford 3 nuclear facility and are tested at noon on the first Thursday of every month. Waterford 3 has allowed St. Charles Parish to use the sirens for other emergency situations, including tornado warnings, hurricane events, and any other event that poses an immediate and severe threat to the community. If the sirens sound, residents should stay calm, turn on your radio or television to a reliable news source, including SCP-TV, and residents should not use the phone as lines are needed for official business. For more information about what to do in an emergency, go to stcharlesparish.gov, hover over departments, and click on Emergency Preparedness. To sign up for emergency alerts, text SCP Alerts to 888-777. And that's the 411 on outdoor warning sirens.
Get the 411 on large item trash removal. Know your parish. Aside from the parish's regularly scheduled trash bin pickup, residents can also request that large items be removed from the front of their property. Residents should place this debris in a neat and
Good evening. Thank you. I hope it's appropriate, and before I pray, that we take a moment and honor and remember the life of Pope Francis. Father, we love you and we thank you for this day. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to come together tonight. Lord, I thank you, Lord, for men and women who give their lives to serve your kingdom. Lord, I thank you, Lord, for the life and work of Pope Francis. Lord, I thank you that, God, there are those that give themselves to do this, Lord, and that's what they do. They give their lives, Lord, to serve your purpose in the kingdom of God. And Lord, I pray that in these next coming days and weeks, Lord, that the new elected Pope, Lord, would be a man that would truly usher in an apostolic revival, Lord, in the Catholic Church. I pray for those, Lord, that are affected by this all over our world. And I thank you again for the opportunity, Lord, for this moment. I pray for our parish. I pray, God, for the men and women who are serving your kingdom here, Lord, who are doing the work, Lord, of this parish, that make a difference, that make decisions. Lord, I pray for wisdom. I pray, Lord, God, that you'd speak to their hearts and minds and help them to lead forward. Lord, I pray over those that are representing our proclamations today. Lord, they all serve a purpose in our community, but many of them, Lord, they serve, Lord, as volunteers to help make a difference in other people's lives. And Lord, I just want to say thank you and bless them today. And Lord, I ask you to bless this meeting. We pray for your will to be done. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Special business, proclamations, canvas returns, etc. Honorary 2025-0110, proclamation, National Day of Prayer. Parish President Jules.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Proclamation. Whereas because of the faith of many of our founding fathers, public prayer and national days of prayer have a long-standing and significant history in American tradition. Whereas the first call to prayer was proclaimed by the Second Continental Congress in 1775. And whereas the National Day of Prayer was created in 1952 by a joint resolution of Congress and signed into law by President Harry S. Truman. In 1988, the law was unanimously amended by both the House and the Senate and signed into law by President Ronald Reagan, designating the first Thursday of every May as a day of national prayer. And whereas prayer brings people together, prayer builds bridges between opposing persons and even political parties, and prayer reminds us that we are created in God's image, and He desires for us to represent Him everywhere we go. Prayer brings unity, and whereas in 2025, the 2025 National Day of Prayer theme is, "Now may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace in believing so that you will abound in hope by the power of the Holy Spirit." People across our nation will gather together on this day to observe this symbolic event. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the St. Charles Parish Council and the Parish President, do hereby proclaim Thursday, May 1st, 2025, as National Day of Prayer in St. Charles Parish. And here to accept is Pastor Thomas Hines, someone who has been very much a supporter and an advocate for this National Day of Prayer and helps us put our National Day of Prayer on every year. So thank you, Pastor Hines.
Well, thank you again. I will say that Miss Marilyn Diggs works also alongside me to put together this event. She could not be here this evening, but she would have. And we have a great lineup of men and women that are going to be leading prayers this year. Again, that's on Thursday, May the 1st at noon, right here outside the courthouse. And it's always a great event. And it's going to be another one this year. And so I appreciate the opportunity to represent it and to be here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Hines. File number 2025-0111, Proclamation, Little Red Church Festival Weekend. Councilwoman Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Whereas St. Charles Borromeo Catholic Church is hosting their 43rd annual Little Red Church Food and Fun Festival on May 2nd through the 4th, 2025 at 13396 River Road in Destrehan, Louisiana. And whereas the Little Red Church Festival Committee invites everyone to come and enjoy delicious food and beverages, exciting games, amusement park rides, live bands, dancing, pageantry, and a coordination of Miss Little Red Church. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we, the members of the St. Charles Parish Council and the Parish President, do hereby proclaim May 2nd through the 4th, 2025 at St. Charles Borromeo Catholic Church, Little Red Church Festival Weekend in St. Charles Parish, and encourage all citizens to attend the festival in Destrehan, Louisiana. And we have Queen Haley Jackson here to present.
Thank y'all so much for having me tonight. And again, I, Haley Grace, am inviting y'all all to the festival May 2nd through the 4th. Thank you.
File number 2025-0112, Proclamation, Bayou des Allemands, Blessing of the Fleet Day. Councilman Mobley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Proclamation. Whereas the crew of des Allemands and community members will host their annual boat blessing on Saturday, May 3rd, 2025, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. under the big bridge on Highway 90 in Des Allemands. And whereas all boats are welcome, commercial fishing boats, work boats, sport fishing boats, charter boats, power boats, pleasure crafts, PWCs, hunting boats, mud boats, houseboats, kayaks, paddle boats, pirogues, etc., etc., etc. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we the members of the St. Charles Parish Council and the parish president do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 3rd, 2025 as Bayou des Allemands Blessing of the Fleet Day in St. Charles Parish and invite all citizens to attend and enjoy the fun and festivities. And here to accept are my good friends, Mitzi Petit and Sherry Folse. Will y'all come on down?
I'd like to thank the council for this year's proclamation. We're very excited to be back again this year for this annual event. And if y'all had noticed, if it floats, we will bless it. So y'all come on down and enjoy the day with us and receive a blessing. So you have safe waterways all year long. Thank you.
All right. File number 2025-0114, Proclamation, Older Americans Month. Parish President Jewell.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Proclamation. Whereas St. Charles Parish includes a growing number of older Americans who contribute their strength, wisdom, and experience to our community, and whereas communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds are welcomed, included, and supported, and whereas St. Charles Parish recognizes our need to create a community that provides these services and supports older Americans' need to thrive and live independently for as long as possible. And whereas St. Charles Parish can work to build an even better community for our older residents by planning programs that encourage independence, ensuring activities are responsive to individual needs and preferences, and increasing access to services that support aging in place. And whereas in 2025, the 2025 theme for Older Americans Month is Flip the Script on Aging, which focuses on transforming how society perceives, talks about, and approaches aging, and encourages individuals and communities to challenge stereotypes and dispel misconceptions. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the St. Charles Parish Council and the Parish President, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Older Americans Month in St. Charles Parish and urge every resident to recognize the contributions of older citizens, help to create an inclusive society, and join efforts to support older Americans' choices about how they age in their communities. Be it further resolved that we, the members of the St. Charles Parish Council and the Parish President, do hereby proclaim Thursday, May 15th, 2025 as Older Americans Month Celebration Day and encourage all citizens in the parish to join the festivities from 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Edward A. Dufresne Community Center in Luling. And here to accept today is Ms. Sharon Waters. Oh, there she is. Oh, Walter. I'm sorry. It's Walter, right? Yes. Sorry.
Should have.
I am. And I hope I get older.
On behalf of all the older Americans in St. Charles Parish and beyond, thank you all. And you do not have to be an older American to join in our festivities on May the 15th, so please feel welcome. Thank you.
File number 2025-0115, Proclamation, ALS Awareness Month in St. Charles Parish. Councilwoman O'Daniels.
Thank you, Chairperson. Proclamation. Whereas amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, often referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and the spinal cord. And whereas it is estimated that ALS is responsible for nearly 2 deaths per 100,000 people annually. More people die every year of ALS than of Huntington's disease or multiple sclerosis, and it occurs 2/3 as frequently as multiple sclerosis. Whereas the ALS Association symbolizes the hope of people everywhere that amyotrophic lateral sclerosis will one day be a disease of the past, relegated to historical status, studied in medical textbooks, conquered by the dedication of thousands who have worked ceaselessly to understand and eradicate this perplexing killer. And whereas ALS is an incurable, fatal neuromuscular disease characterized by progressive muscle weakness resulting in paralysis, and whereas the disease attacks nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord, causing muscles to no longer receive the messages they need in order to function, gradually weakening and deteriorating them, and whereas members in the community come together to raise funds to benefit the ALS Association in their fight against ALS. Time is not on the side of those afflicted. Fighting ALS is a full-time job. And whereas the 2025 Louisiana Walk to Defeat ALS will be held on Saturday, November 1st, 2025, registration begins at 9 a.m., and the walk begins at 10:30 a.m. at the Pennington Bay Biomedical Research Center, 6400 Perkins Road in Baton Rouge. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the St. Charles Parish Council and the Parish President, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as ALS Awareness Month in St. Charles Parish. Ms. Brady was not here to accept this, so we will mail it to her. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. File number 2025-0116, Proclamation, Flood Risk Awareness Month in St. Charles Parish. Proclamation. Whereas flooding poses a risk to the safety and property of residents, and whereas flooding from storm surge is one of the biggest dangers during tropical weather, and whereas it is recommended that all residents purchase flood insurance regardless of their flood zone, and whereas the parish's Flood Aware Committee was organized in 2017 to compile a plan for public information that informs residents of local flood risks and promotes flood insurance coverage, and whereas the Flood Aware Committee is led by the Public Information Office and the parish's Coastal Zone Management Team and includes stakeholders from the local Chamber of Commerce, industry, real estate, banks, and nonprofits. And whereas on February 17, 2024, the St. Charles Parish Council approved Resolution Number 6475, officially adopting the Floodplain and Stormwater Management Program for Public Information, which has been submitted to the National Flood Insurance Program for the Community Rating System and has reduced flood insurance rates for all St. Charles Parish residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved, we, the members of the St. Charles Parish Council and the Parish President, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Flood Risk Awareness Month in St. Charles Parish. Be it further resolved, we, the members of the St. Charles Parish Council and the Parish President, do hereby urge all community members to purchase flood insurance and be informed of local flood risks and mitigation practices during the month of May. And we have Mr. Albert, I believe, or Ms. Marnie Stein's here to accept with Mr. Albert.
Sorry. Thank you. Thanks to everybody for the proclamation. We'll be spending the month of May trying to make sure that people understand their flood risk and protect themselves from their flood risks. And we'll be working as hard as we can to reduce their flood insurance premiums as much as we can.
And flood insurance is one of the most cost-effective ways to protect your home. So if you don't have it, you need to look into it, call our office, and talk to one of our people to help you out with understanding your risk and understanding the benefits of having flood insurance on your home. Thank you.
Thank you both. Reports, finance and administrative activities. We have file number 2025-0113, Animal Control. Dr. Gina Troxler is here to report.
Good evening, Council and Parish President Jewel. I look forward tonight to giving you a presentation of how our data looked for 2024 for the Department of Animal Control. So we have a team that includes 4 animal control officers. 3 of them are in the middle with their blue shirts, and we are hiring another animal control officer right now. We have 1 vacant position. We have 2 kennel attendants and a kennel officer and a part-time worker. So our shelter is an open intake shelter. We don't deny pets coming in because of behavior reasons. We're government-run shelter, so if we find a stray unattached to an owner and we can't find its owner, they come in. Sometimes people surrender their pets, multiple reasons, but intake-wise, it was pretty steady compared to a year prior. 636 dogs. And you can see that almost half of those were just stray, not on a leash or with an owner. And 134 were surrendered by their owner because they didn't want them anymore. And almost 60 were spayed and neutered on a grant that we have through Petco to help with some behavioral issues and reproduction and things like that we offer free to the public. For cats, we took in over 1,000. About half were not attached to an owner and they weren't wanted back in the area. And about another 420 participated in the free spay-neuter program. We have an ordinance under 4-10, and it is outdoor cats. And if they're not causing a problem, we're allowed to spay and neuter, microchip, rabies vaccinate, and the person who wants them outside can have them. And if they're causing an issue, the person has to keep them indoors. And about 100 cats were surrendered by their owners. And then we work really hard to place them and find homes. There's a legal stray hold, 5 business days per ordinance. And if they find their owners, we've had about 40% of dogs get reunited with their family. We post everything on social media every day of new intakes, and about 5% were reclaimed by their parents. Cat reclaim rates are always a lot lower, and anything checked out of our facility gets a microchip so that if we get them again, we can easily find the owner. Pets that were adopted in St. Charles Parish or through our local Petco partners throughout multiple parishes, we had 260 cats adopted, which is 74% of our cats get adopted through our off-site facilities, which is a dream come true. They pretty much come to us, go through stray hold, go through basic medical, and then every Friday they go for adoption, and they're in homes within a couple of days. That saves us money for care, and it's better for the pets that way. We had about 71 dogs adopted locally. And then, as you know, we fly with Greater Good Charities about every 2 weeks. That's been a partner for about 7 years, and we adopt all over the nation as well. So we sent 22 cats and 138 dogs got adopted between Washington, New Jersey, Wisconsin this year. And our partners will sometimes give a little bit of give back money to the parish to continue our spay-neuter program. And that was $800 last year that was donated. Our flight partnership with Greater Good Charities also promotes us starting heartworm treatment on dogs and them finishing it with our receiving shelters. So 14 dogs were heartworm positive, and that saves us a lot of money. Each heartworm treatment technically would cost us about $1,200 through a clinical setting. And we participated in 31 jet flights. So these are private planes. The pets are the only passengers, and there's a Greater Good representative and 2 pilots on the plane. And there are people with them the entire flight. And we do this so we have enough space so that we're not having to have to make decisions for nice pets just because we don't have enough cages. So we do this, and we have had $234 donated to our heartworm treatment for in-house dogs, and $81,000 donated in heartworm flea tick prevention for all the dogs we care for at the shelter. And the same group donated $160,000 in food when we've had a hurricane event, that we give that back to the public. And let's see. Basically, if you paid for each flight, that's $30,000 per private plane. This is all donated through Greater Good Charities, and we work with some surrounding shelters that are Jefferson Parish, Lafourche, etc. But those flights would have cost upward of $945,000. That's all donations. Length of stay is important because we need the pets to leave and be mentally and physically healthy. So average length of stay is about 11 days. And if you think of why we want them out sooner besides health, it's a cost of about $25 per day per pet to take care of them. And our adoption fee is $80. So that can definitely only be a drop in the bucket to get an $80 adoption fee when we're spending on basic care. Bite cases are reality. We do everything we can to socialize pets, educate children, educate the public on how to keep people safe, use a leash, use a fence. But our bite cases escalated by 60% last year. And that is quite significant. And why is that? I can just tell you that 3 things play a role in bite cases. That's genetics, that's the environment, and that's also what the dogs learn from the environment, like training. And if people don't put money into the training or time, you get an unruly dog when they're 2 years old and hormonal. Most of our bites are 2 years old, intact animals. Bites by breed. Bully breeds are the number 1 bite cases, but you also have to take into consideration it's the number 1 breed that we see around here. Over 60% of our intake are bully breed mixes. We actually have a free pit stop this week, spay neuter free for bully breeds because we got a grant from Wings of Rescue. Cats are our second bite case risk. People sometimes feed cats, think they can pick them up, and they don't like that. So, and mixed breed dogs were third. Dangerous spectrum, we have an ordinance 4-6. This is not breed specific. This is based on behavior. It can apply to any dog. And in 2024, we had 57 dogs that were put on the spectrum. It's a spectrum because we are trying to prevent bites. So if a dog is at large repeatedly and we're getting complaints and we have evidence, the dog is potentially dangerous. We had 46 of those deemed, or if a dog inflicts a bite and it doesn't require sutures, it's potentially dangerous. We only had 10. We had 1 declared vicious. And every time an owner doesn't follow the ordinance and the dog is loose again or causes a problem again, they can be bumped up on the spectrum. And you do not need a bite to get on the spectrum. You can just have repetitive violations. Active declared dogs in St. Charles Parish. This is important because this ordinance was put into place about 2020. Since that time, we only have 107 dogs deemed potentially dangerous, and 18 are dangerous and active in the parish. What usually happens is the owner is informed of the law. We explain how to contain the animal to prevent future escapes, and it ends there, and that's the goal. So 107 just stayed potentially dangerous. Out of the dogs that were deemed dangerous, 13 of those dogs were out of the same 9 households. So ultimately, dogs are property. They're up to us to contain and keep the public safe. And human error is usually why they're off the leash, out of the fence, out of the fencing system, and they end up in situations. Top breeds declared dangerous. The first one was bully breeds. The second one was mixed breeds. And the third were German Shepherds. Once again, it's just how the data falls. It's not breed determined. It is behavior. And then for our stray hold, we have a standard of care. When a dog comes in and we don't know its history and it doesn't have a microchip or rabies tag, they all get vaccinated on intake. It's a herd health element. We have to keep everything healthy in our shelter setting. And there's one piece of data we reran at the bottom. And to correct that number, 80% of animals entering our care have no vaccines. So there are a lot of diseases that can spread. So part of our care is basic vaccinations, which is a standard of care across shelters. And ultimately, the clients, the residents, are not charged for that. But to summarize, the basic vaccines, dewormer, vet exam, animal control officer picking up animals as needed after hours, during hours, feeding and housing per day. If you look at it, dollar amount, it's $420 we put into each stray to have a stray hold that is 5 business days and have a healthy animal to go home. Redemption fees, that's owners picking up their pets after they're impounded. That was close to $17,000. And just for spay and neuter, 53% of the animals came in already spayed and neutered. 27% chose for us to spay and neuter before they left, and that gives them lower intake fees if they allow that. And 20% left intact because they wanted to breed. Adoption and care, how much care goes into a pet that's adopted. We do everything we can to sweeten the deal to make our pets the most desirable, whether they're flying nationally or adopted locally. So we want them healthy, and that includes all the basic vaccines, dewormer, microchip, 6 months of heartworm prevention, spay neuter. If they have heartworms, we treat them because they'll die of heartworms. If it's not treated, it's mosquito borne. And $750 of medical care goes into every animal, and our adoption fee is $80, and that hasn't changed in decades. So the parish is definitely not making a lot of money on adoption fees. And if you look at the absolute medical care put in, if you were outsourcing, you're looking at about $370,000 in medical care for all the animals adopted each year. And compared to the adoption fees paid, $26,000. Surgeries, we do free cat surgeries just because they reproduce about 5 times a year, and we try to decrease the intake, which pays off in the end. And that cat in the middle has a little notch out of the ear, and that means it's been spayed or neutered. If it's on the left, it's a girl. If it's on the right, it's a boy. And it's easy to see from a distance. So when people see the cats that are outside, they can tell quickly if we need to come pick them up for the program or if they're already on the program. And these come microchipped as well. And in-house surgeries, we did close to 1,000. That's about $84,000 worth. Exams, we did over 3,000, 128,000. Heartworm treatments, spent about 17,000. But all that money, we could get close to 880,000 in just basic medical care for an animal shelter to run. But our shelter budget's $40,000 for medical care, and we get it done within that budget because we have an in-house veterinarian, that's me, and our staff is amazing. and they're well trained, and we spend a lot of time on education, and they were able to facilitate literally everything we need in house besides surgery on bones. I don't do that. And we have a nonprofit group, Turning Rescues into Pets, that pays for any advanced surgeries that we need. Our volunteers are phenomenal. We have people that come every day in retirement. We have certain people that come just on bath days when dogs are adopted. We had Waterford 3 come and volunteer time as a group, as a corporation. And we have switched our volunteer orientation to digital with a quick tour 5 days a week instead of offering it once a week. And that has increased our volunteers by 34%. And they have added about a $20,000 value to helping to socialize, entertain, and keep our pets mentally healthy. We had 4,000 calls that came into animal control last year. 651 resulted in investigations. So that means we had to address ordinances or state statute. And the top 3 calls for service were animals running loose, outdoor cats, and wellness checks. And many have great before and afters. That's Honey, and she had an owner that was just prosecuted for aggravated cruelty and 5 years in jail. We have a very good judicial system for animal welfare, and they follow through on our cases. And we also have a grant that we started last year, and this is Hurricane Prep Day. Everyone brought their old backpacks, and we had food donated. We had pet supplies, little checklist, everything you need if you have a no-notice event and you have to grab your backpack and go with your pet. We had all that, and it was really great. And look, there's Holly up there. See? We're going to do that again this year. And then this week, like I said, we have Pit Stop, free spay neuter. You can call the shelter, make an appointment all week. And we do a lot of education in terms of pet health and community events, everything from Santa Claus. Every Thursday, we do 6 in the morning, run or walk a dog with us. Rabies Drive is this Sunday, 9 to 12 at the Edward Dufresne Community Center, $10 rabies vaccines, free microchip, birthday parties. Corporations sponsor pet condos, and we give them updates every quarter about all the pets that went through their condos. We're open 2 Saturdays per month. We do a lot of school presentations. And that's the new Luling Living Center that's been refurbished. We restarted visiting them a couple weeks ago. And Reading Buddy, top right, kids can come read to the pets anytime they want to. And one kid from R.K. Smith did a shoe collection, sold them by the pound, and she donated supplies to the animals. And we even integrate high schools, and so if they're interested in veterinary medicine, they come and shadow. And do you have any questions?
Councilman Pillier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good job.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Yes.
How many of these dangerous spectrum dogs are euthanized?
Well, if you're on the dangerous spectrum, as an owner, you have a choice. You can get your dog back. You can build a 6-foot fence, pen within the fence, get $100,000 liability insurance. Some people see their dog take a bite out of a child and say, I don't want it, and they surrender it. Sometimes they want to come up to par, and many of them do. But the owner has a choice. If they don't want the liability and they don't want that behavior, they can surrender the pet for euthanasia. It is all about prevention. It's not will it happen again, it's when. So you have to really be prepared to prevent those situations as an owner and be constantly aware.
So every year there's a few, perhaps? Or no?
Euthanasias for dangerous? Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, some owners rationally don't want that. So we can't adopt that out to you, because if a dog has been a bite risk before it will happen again. And we can't, public safety is number one.
And one other thing that I'd like to know, can someone report anonymously a dangerous dog?
Yes.
Okay, because
If
there are
they're
some
hap-
people who are timid about talking to their neighbors when they have a pit bull trying to jump over the fence, or when they get out of their yard and are on the street. So they're timid about upsetting a neighbor.
Anonymous is definitely a way that we do calls, and they just report the behavior, and we address it with the owner. We try to find ways to prevent the behavior in the future, so there is not incident. And then, yes, we encourage at every incident, if it's during daytime hours, call animal control. And if you're having safety issues after hours, you call non-emergency 911, and they get in touch with us. We're on call for that.
Thank you, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Councilman Pillier. Councilwoman Skiba.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just curious, what is the minimum age to volunteer?
Birth. For real.
Okay.
So if you're with a parent, you do volunteer orientation. If you are under 14, you're with a parent. And if you're over 14, it's best that they volunteer for a couple hours at a time without a parent, so they stay busy. But yes, we find that sometimes the children are more in tune and alert compared to the parents. Sometimes they tell them which pets they can handle and can't and why. And so we find that educating the kids is priority to make a difference in the future. So there's no minimum.
Thank you, Councilwoman Skiba. Councilwoman DeBruyer.
Yes, I just want to thank you for the amazing job that you do in our community. I personally have experienced it myself. And also, I've run into many teenagers that volunteer over at the animal control. It's exciting to hear that how much they enjoy it and how many hours that they put in. So thank you for offering that opportunity for our young teens as well.
I appreciate that. Our team is very welcoming, and they enjoy having the community there. It's something that fills their cup in everything we do.
Thank you, Councilwoman DeBruyer. Councilwoman O'Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask this every single year. I'm going to ask the same question because these questions are the ones that mostly come up. Is if you see a stray and it's after hours, and can you describe the difference between when your people will come out or when you leave the stray?
Yes.
Explain that a little bit for people that might be watching.
Healthy stray, walking down the street, just looking around, not causing an issue. We suggest go to your neighbors, look around the neighborhood. Someone's probably looking for their dog. They're usually a couple of blocks from home. Don't call animal control to pick that healthy stray up. Now, if that dog's hit by a car and not moving and not running away, we come out for severely injured domestic animals, not wildlife, not after hours. Then we come out for rabies risks. So if you have a raccoon loitering at the convenience store, a bat that flew in the convenience store, a coyote by someone's front door, we come out for those because that's a rabies risk. And then we go out for bite cases after hours. It's difficult because sometimes they call non-emergency 911 because they saw a dog, they want to do the right thing, they don't want to get hit by a car. And many times we can post a picture of a pet if it's sent to animal control via social media, and people can reunite with their pets usually in a couple of hours without coming to us. So sometimes we encourage the finder, just hold on to it for a couple of hours if you really feel like you have to contain it, and send us a picture. We have a lot of followers, and often it's recognized and the owner can go pick up their pet. So a healthy stray, it's not great to be loose after hours, but during the day, we do the same. We don't immediately pick up the pet. We go and we canvass and we look to see if someone's looking, and we try to reunite in the field. There is a percentage that happens with, but if it's during the day, we will pick up a healthy stray. You got to remember, our officers work 24/7 when they're on call. They're not like a police deputy working one shift. So if we were called out for every little stray walking down the street, they probably would get no sleep at night. So
Yeah.
if it's injured, that's when you call. If not, good citizen thing would be send us a picture or look for your neighbor, look to see who's looking for their pet.
I just think that's important information because people call and then they'll get disappointed and say, you said you're 24/7. So I appreciate you breaking that down.
Yes.
And the last question is always the unpleasant one.
What's
the spectrum. Talk about the spectrum with dogs getting loose, and then they elevate up the spectrum from potentially dangerous, and then vicious. At the point it gets to vicious, that's pretty much the end of the line for that particular pet. Is that correct?
Yes, you would not get your dog back once deemed vicious.
Okay, so and you posted the statistics of how many vicious animals in the year, and it generally is
One.
not very many.
No, usually people heed the advice and use a leash, use a fence, use their pin to prevent people from having the hazard of an animal running loose. And this is all complaint based. So this is a citizen complaining that this dog is loose, I'm being threatened, and we don't want an incident. We much prefer to help educate the dog owner and prevent a bite. That's the goal.
Appreciate
before it
that
happens.
explanation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Daniels. Councilman Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Troxler, I know in the past we've done some donation drives for towels and blankets and things like that. Are you still in need for that kind of stuff? Is that something you would want every day?
So we like towels and we like pillowcases, and pillowcases are more like for surgery. And blankets, big blankets, we do have a lot of right now. But yes, towels are always an easy thing people can pass down from their homes.
So you just bring them by the shelter, drop them off for you?
Yes, we have a donation bench out front. So anytime, day or night, people will leave donations like that.
All right.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Fisher. Thank you, Dr. Troxler, and thank your staff for all that you do to serve our parish.
Thank you.
All right. File number 2025-0124, Parish President Remarks Report. Parish President Jewell.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you, Dr. Troxler, for the presentation. Our staff always does a tremendous job. They work real hard for public safety, first and foremost. Okay. First, we want to talk about projects that are currently in the bid process. Just wanted to highlight that we currently have over $30 million of projects either out to bid or in the process or on tonight's agenda. I think probably half of which is probably on tonight's agenda, half of the $30 million. You can see those on the screen, and we will have more to come in the coming weeks. Okay. Also wanted to highlight the CPRA annual plan projects. So currently we have $110 million of projects in the CPRA annual plan, which is great news. I do want to preface that not every single dollar is in this annual plan. Some of these monies go into FY27 and FY28. This is the FY26 annual plan. But some significant new additions is the Cousins Pump Station and T-Wall. That's $16.7 million. The $5.5 million Sunset Pump Station engine upgrades. We think that's going to be a $10 to $12 million project, which they were able to find some extra money, so we jumped on it and got whatever we could. A big one that is in there is the Bayou des Allemands Floodgate Complex at $62.5 million. This is probably closer to a $90 million project, and we have another pot of money outside of CPRA that we're working on to try to get the remainder of that money. And we expect that project to be under construction by the end of next year. Additionally, some of these projects that you're already familiar with, Muntz Pump Station, which is on tonight's council agenda, the $6 million for the ongoing bar screener project. That is a $12 million project. So this CPRA annual plan money pays for half of that. LaBranch Shoreline Protection, that's a part of PO 77, I guess it was, where they did a $66 million Quipper project last year. in this year, and that has concluded. Second phase of that project, while it is a separate project, they do kind of work together. Is that shoreline protection in La Branch, and then we have some money in there for the boat launch. So a lot of good projects. Again, these are all projects that are coming to St. Charles Parish. Either the parish is directly overseeing these projects, or the levy district, or CPRA. So just good news, and we wanted to highlight that for the council. Next is the Muntz Pump Station. I just wanted to say that on tonight's agenda, we have a historic first step in securing some permanent flood protection for the people and businesses in Muntz. This is the top priority in the Muntz Drainage Master Plan, and look forward to that agenda item later tonight. Preventative maintenance. Our public works crews have been doing some spring cleaning around the parish to help remove the buildup of flowers and leaves along streets that make their way into our catch basins and clog our drains. We don't do this work for aesthetics. We do this to keep the infrastructure clear and working. This particularly was on Lakewood Boulevard, and that catch basin is right under an oak tree. And it's just a continuous issue where some of these trees will drop leaves or drop, flowers or whatever that will clog catch basins. So also important to know that if your street doesn't have a curb and gutter catch basin type of setup, you probably won't see a street sweeper on your street. It's not because we don't like you. It's just because it's really not effective, other than maybe cleaning up Mardi Gras beads. So you'll see these on streets, or you'll see the street sweeper on streets that have your curb and catch basin type setup. If y'all have any issues in your district where you see this type of buildup, please let us know. We'll make sure to get the street sweeper out there. This is a street sweeper that we're actually testing. A lot of the street sweepers that we have leased in the past or rented in the past don't have a vacuum system, so they would sweep it into a pile, and then our crews would put that into the bed of a truck or a dump truck. That system requires multiple people, multiple different pieces of equipment. This is a piece of equipment that we've been testing that actually vacuums up everything as well while it's working. So we're just testing that out. Okay. Over the years, I've heard so many people saying that they call over to the waterworks department and nobody answers. And we really had no way of knowing how many people were actually calling, how many calls were going unanswered. We had something called an infinity line, which means that the phone would just ring until infinity, until you hung up or someone answered. And so we decided to switch up this system and go with more of a call center type system. So this works with our existing phones. It's an enhancement on our existing phones, a program that we now have access to. So now the call center will allow features like callback requests. So I don't know if you've ever called like Amazon or Southwest and you can't speak to someone or the wait time's long. You push 1 and you can get a call back. So now what will happen is if residents aren't able to get through, they push 1 and their phone will ring, and simultaneously while their phone is ringing, the phone is ringing inside of our waterworks department, and they're saying, "Waterworks, thanks for calling," and then you are able to connect with them. So just as an example, we had I think close to 400 calls last week into the waterworks building, whether it was for payment information, requests for new services, calls about potential leaks. And I'm happy to say that we had about a 98+% connection rate with our customers. So we can now actually see not only how many people are calling, how many times we're connecting with our customers and answering their questions, average call length, which is a little over 2 minutes per call. We can also see on a management side who has answered the phone the most, who has answered the phone the least, and this system is actually smart and will ring the desk of the person who has answered the least and make sure everybody is on the same kind of playing field there as far as answering the phones, and nobody's getting out of answering the phones more than someone else. So so far so good. It has been working. We're going to keep the system going, and if you guys have any questions about that, please let me know. All right. I think Wednesday we're going to be doing a quick ribbon cutting on the completion of the first phase of the Paul Mallard Revitalization Project. This project has been a long time in the making. We received a 80% federal cost share on this project. It was about a $12 million project total that added new sidewalks, new drainage, new sewer lines, new water lines, and a whole lot of other relocations of other facilities along that corridor. I think it looks terrific. I see a lot of people using the sidewalks. And again, that was a part of a federal grant that we got through RPC, and that program was called Complete Streets. So if you see a lot of people asking why we put sidewalks on both sides, it was required in the Complete Streets program. Again, this is first phase. This was from Angus to Blueberry, and the second phase will be from Blueberry to Highway 90. That phase of the project is currently in engineering, and myself and Mike Palamone are working with RPC to make sure that the money lines up for when the project goes out to bid for that second phase. And then the last phase will be from Angus all the way over to River Road. Okay. Dr. Troxler mentioned it, but we're going to have a spay-neuter event, and we were the recipient of a very generous grant from Wings of Rescue to provide complete free spay and neuter services for all bully breeds in St. Charles Parish this week. Please call the shelter at 985-783-5010 to reserve your space because surgery times are limited. There's some more information there on the screen. April 21st to the 25th, again this week. And our shelter is at 921 Deputy Jeff G. Watson Boulevard, or Drive in Luling. All right. We also have a rabies drive. If you got your water bill recently, you saw that this was on one side of our water bill insert. Residents of all ages, community partners, and parish staff teamed up. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. What is this? Oh, the rabies drive. Again, this is the annual rabies drive on Sunday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. The Edward A. Dufresne Community Center in Luling. This is going to be a drive-through event, but dogs must be leashed and cats must be in a carrier. To participate, residents need to bring a valid driver's license as proof of residency. Please note that only cash payments will be accepted. For more information, contact the animal shelter at 985-783-5010. All right, Trash Bash. We had residents of all ages and community partners, as well as our parish staff that teamed up on Saturday, April 12th, to participate in the 17th annual Trash Bash event. In total, we had 782 volunteers that collected 447 bags of trash, over 920 volunteer hours. This was our third year holding Trash Bash in conjunction with Love the Boot Week, and we're thrilled to have such excellent outcomes. All right, upcoming, the 5th annual Fishdat Rodeo is going to be held on Saturday, May 10th. We're planning a really great event for our anglers of all ages. Parks and Recreation works all year long to make this event fun for the whole family, so we're excited to roll out some changes that will make this year's event even bigger and better. Registration is open now through May 9th at scpparksandrec.com. Again, this is going to be taking place on May 10th, and we hope to see you there. National Day of Prayer, as we talked about earlier today, is going to be Thursday, May 1st at noon in front of the courthouse for the National Day of Prayer, where our local faith leaders will guide us in prayer and reflection. This year's theme, pour out to God of hope and be filled. All right. We are watching the Mississippi River level closely. Obviously, we've now gotten to that stage where most of our construction within 1,500 feet of the levee has to halt or be limited to non-digging activities. We know that this is going to affect several projects like our Levee Bench project, our East Bank Bridge Park project, and a few others, as well as our waterline replacement project, which is actually in the spillway. But Public Works closed the Spillway Road Friday due to the road being covered with water. And today, a test opening of one of the bays was held by the Corps of Engineers. While we hope that the spillway does not have to be opened in full, we are keeping our eyes closely trained on that area. And just as a FYI, it's generally that the river is about 17 feet or 1.25 million cubic feet per second in flow, which triggers the Bonnet-Carré spillway to be open. That concludes my report.
All right. Thank you, Parish President Jewell. Ordinances, resolutions introduced for publication, public hearing. Monday, May 5th, 2025, 6 p.m., council chambers in the courthouse in Hornville. File number 2025-0122. File number 2025-0123. File number 2025-0126. File number 2025-0127. File number 2025-0128. File number 2025-0129. And file number 2025-0130. Ordinance is scheduled for public hearing introduced at the previous meeting. File number 2025-0094, an ordinance to approve and authorize the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Louisiana Department of Veteran Affairs and St. Charles Parish for the provision of office space located in the St. Charles Parish Courthouse, 15045 River Road in Hornville, Louisiana. Parish President Jewell.
I believe this is our annual ordinance that we do to work with the Office of Veterans Affairs to provide space for our veterans who are coming to the courthouse, and we ask for your support.
Thank you, Parish President Jewell. File number 2025-0094 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? All right, seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0094. And that passes unanimously. File number 2025-0095, an ordinance to transfer functions of the local coastal zone management advisory committee to the Planning Commission on an interim basis for a period not longer than 18 months or until such time as a Coastal Zone Management Advisory Committee is appointed. Mr. Albert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This ordinance proposes to replace the Coastal Zone Advisory Board members with the Planning Commission. The Coastal Zone Advisory Board has not met since 2017. With pending coastal strategy documents and permits and inquiries related to coastal use, we're proposing a stopgap measure to ensure that the board is fully seated and ready to hear any matters that might come before them. The ordinance proposes a sunsetting of 18 months, in which time the goal would be to locate citizen representatives to make up the board. This went before the Planning Commission, and they had no objection to temporarily taking up the duties when and where they arise. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. File number 2025-0095 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Councilwoman O'Daniels.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion to amend ordinance number 2025-0095 by revising the time frame for seating the Coastal Zone Management Advisory Committee to 6 months instead of 18 months, to sunset at 6 months because of the composition of the actual code and the seating. The 6 month period, after speaking with legal, seems to be the best way to seat the board. I believe that we can do that in a 6 month period. If not, we can revisit. So, motion to amend section 2 of the ordained language to read 16 months rather than 18 months for the ordinance.
6 months.
6 months, I'm sorry, 6 months.
Yes.
Instead of 18 months.
Okay.
Proceeding of the new Coastal Zone Management Advisory Committee.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman O'Daniels to amend file number 2025-0095, to change the period from 18 months to 6 months. And we have a second by Councilwoman DeBruyer. File number 2025-0095 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this amendment, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any further council discussion on the amended ordinance? Parish President Jewell.
I was just going to say we don't have any objection to the amended language.
Okay, thank you, Parish President Jewell. All right, any other discussion? All right, please cast your votes to amend file number 2025-0095. All right, that passes unanimously. File number 2025-0095, as amended, is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, seeing none, public hearing is closed. Do we have any council discussion? Councilman Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael, I am a little concerned. I don't have a problem with the time frame, 6 months, 18 months. I really don't. But I know it was brought up in the Planning Commission meeting about training. I know we go through our American planning training as either a ZBA member or a Planning Commission member. I don't know if we could provide them with some more guidance besides other than having Marnie sitting at the meeting. I mean, she's our expert now, as Earl was, but is there possible to set up a training session for them just to give them some general information on things they might see? I know there was a few questions asked about camps and stuff, but as we get more involved in the CPRA and as federal grants and stuff come available and projects and stuff, is there any way we could actually give them some more training on coastal management?
We'd be happy to look into it.
Okay,
It's
so let's do
definitely
that,
not an
and then also let's try to also have when we fill this board, to have training sessions for them too.
Certainly.
So they're not blindsided, or we're just simply giving them one point of view. So I'd like to make sure that that definitely becomes part of the agenda of what you want to do.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, any other council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0095 as amended. And that passes unanimously. File number 2025-0096, an ordinance to amend St. Charles Parish zoning ordinance of 1981 as amended. Appendix A, Section 20, flood damage prevention. B, definitions, to eliminate numbering, to list terms alphabetically, and to add the definition for base flood elevation to the list of terms in alphabetical order. Mr. Albert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. During our recent 5-year NFIP compliance review, 2 small issues were found in our flood damage prevention section. The first of those is a missing definition for base flood elevation. Our code already defines base flood, and we already require construction to meet the base flood elevation. This is a minor amendment to satisfy the technical requirements from FEMA in our overall review.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. File number 2025-0096 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Okay, seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0096. And that passes unanimously. File number 2025-0097, an ordinance to amend St. Charles Parish zoning ordinance of 1981 as amended, Appendix A, Section 20, flood damage prevention. E, provisions for flood hazard reduction. 1, to add general standards for new and replacement water supply systems. Mr. Albert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the second technical correction from our 5-year compliance review. The ordinance adds a single line stating that water supply systems shall be designed to minimize or eliminate infiltration of floodwaters into the system. This practice is already in place by the Waterworks Department, and in speaking with the Waterworks Department, we have full support for the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. File number 2025-0097 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0097. And that passes unanimously. File number 2025-0100, an ordinance to approve and authorize the parish president to execute an act of sale from RES Barataria LLC for a certain 1.06 acres designated as Lot 1A, located along the southern side of the Hawn Street extension in the amount of $115,525. Mr. Oob.
Yes, as indicated in the description, this is allowing the parish president to execute the documents necessary for the parish to acquire Lot 1A, which results in a savings of $1.6 million on that project that I'm going to defer to Mr. Bingham to discuss, but it's ultimately for the purchase of $115,525 of that property. If there's any questions regarding the actual project, I ask Miles to chime in.
Okay.
I would just mention that this is for the King and Hawn Street project, which is a major drainage project in that area, which will benefit the residents of that neighborhood greatly. So that would be what I would add.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Oob and Mr. Bingham. File number 2025-0100 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Councilman Pillier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Bingham, I think it'd be worth perhaps just emphasizing the fact that this is one small parcel. As I read it, we have a donation that was made by, I believe, the same company of about a 20-foot servitude and some, I don't know, numerous acres.
RES actually donated a 100-foot servitude for the major ditch that will be constructed for this project, which actually gave us extended where we could benefit the neighborhood. We were basically getting from Julia to Hawn Street in the original project. We can now get all the way over to another street, another couple streets over. So it actually makes it much better for us. That 100-foot servitude is a major ditch. They also gave us a 20-foot servitude that runs down the street to the sewer plant.
It's kind of parallel to the Melanson track, I believe.
Yes, it is, sir.
So that enables us to do something we've been trying to do for years, pretty much.
It gives us access back to the sewer treatment plant. It also gives us access. The reason we did that one is they would like the dirt from when we dig out the canal, and we could that allows us to actually get onto their property. Plus, it gives us that access.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Pillier. Councilwoman O'Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought you were going to hit on it, but you didn't. So the shining star of this is what are the cost savings for having the access with this property? It's in the ordinance, but I want you to say it out loud. That there's a huge cost savings in the ordinance.
The cost savings, I think Mr. Oop did mention this. We are eliminating a lot of box culvert, which would have cost us a considerable amount of money. It was about $1.6 million that we are saving on this project due to that.
So that's a huge win to just because the emphasis of the price per acre just provides us a huge cost savings for the whole project.
Absolutely. There's a huge savings for the little bit of money we're spending on this piece of property.
Thank you for emphasizing that.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Daniels. Councilwoman Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. This is a project, a long-awaited project that we have been waiting for the Horn King Street. So one question you said about the flow of the water. So the water is going to flow from Aquarius to the toward Horn Street, or is it going from Horn to?
It goes from the west to the east, which would be from Aquarius, and it would flow to Hahn, under Hahn, the Hahn Street, and
To the
into the
water
ditch
plant.
that will run parallel to Hahn Street down to the canal in the back.
Alrighty, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Wilson. Any further council discussion? All right, seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0100. And that passes unanimously. File number 2025-0101 is an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a contract with ARC Mechanical Contractors, Inc. for the Edward A. Dufresne Community Center chiller replacement upgrade, project number GB 240701, in the amount of $1,007,800. Mr. Messerly.
Yes, ma'am. This is a needed project right now to get the safety and secure of that building down there so we can continue using it for what it's used for. Safety for the floods or hurricanes or anything else we might need. It's a redundant chiller.
All right. File number 2025-0101 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion on this one? All right, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0101. And that passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Messerly. File number 2025-0102, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of an agreement with the St. Charles Parish Department of Community Services and the St. Charles Parish School Board for a summer food service program from May 30th, 2025 through July 10th, 2025. 25 days in total. Ms. Diaz.
Thank you. This is our annual summer food program. It's a vital program for the youth of St. Charles Parish. We run 6 weeks throughout the summer, starting June 1st. And last year, we almost hit 5,000 meals. So I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Ms. Diaz. File number 2025-0102 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0102. And that passes unanimously. File number 2025-0104, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of change order number 3 with Cass Bros. Inc. for concrete maintenance 2023-2024, project number P230803, to increase the contract amount by $288,798.91 and increase the contract time by 24 days. Mr. Bingham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a project where we actually were able to get more done than we originally thought. It was a concrete maintenance. We started in one area. We were able to expand the number of panels we were taking out in that area and improve that area very well. We were also able to get out and do some near the our yard, and we eliminated all of our very poor concrete streets under this project. So this was very successful. We did stay under our cap of $1.8 million for the project, but we did try and get it as close as we could. And so we would appreciate your support on this final change order.
Thank you, Mr. Bingham. File number 2025-0104 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0104. And that passes unanimously. File number 2025-0105, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a contract with RLJ Construction LLC for the River Oaks Lift Station Replacement, project number S230501, in the amount of $421,091.99. Mr. DeGeneres.
Yes, Madam Chair. This is to replace an old dry pit station at the end of River Oaks Drive, and we ask for your support.
Thank you. File number 2025-0105 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? All right, seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0105. That passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. DeGeneres. File number 2025-0106, an ordinance to amend the St. Charles Parish Code of Ordinances. Chapter 16, Nuisances, Article 2, Abandoned, Junked, or Wrecked Vehicles, Section 16-11, Defined, to clarify the definition of derelict automobiles by specifying that either lacking adequate registration or a current inspection sticker can qualify a vehicle under the definition. Mr. Albert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We currently use a multi-part test to determine the operational status of a vehicle. The test includes whether the vehicle can move under its own power, has moved within 60 days, and has the required registration and brake tech stickers. This ordinance amends a single word in that definition from and to or. Currently, an awkward 3-part test is used to determine if a vehicle is derelict. This change alters the test for being derelict to be clearer by establishing a 2-part test. With the change, a vehicle may be defined as derelict if it is missing either a registration or inspection sticker and is unable to move under its own power or has not been moved in 60 days. The proposed change has been reviewed by legal, and we have their support on the appropriateness and necessity of the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. File number 2025-0106 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Councilwoman O'Daniels.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I've spent a lot of hours on this one, but I want to go ahead and go back to the history that this is not a new ordinance. This ordinance has been in place since 1981. It has been in place substantially the same language. It was amended once in 2002 and another time in 2003 for clarification, as well as to add the idea that a derelict vehicle or vehicle could be removed from a public street. So we're working with the same basic document as 1981. It's not new. The fact that not a lot of people knew about it tells you that it's not necessarily something that's happening every single day here in the parish. It does happen. It is done for safety purposes, and there's a whole process that's involved in this that is not reflected in the ordinance. So I wanted to ask Mr. Oob if he could kind of run through the process that once this 3-prong test, it's now a 2-prong test, is met, what happens once it comes to his office, to let you know that there's a whole nother process that allows the individual to have due process requirements are all met through a court system. So it's not like it comes and you get tagged, the vehicle gets tagged, you get notices, and then all of a sudden your car is towed. It's not how it works. So Mr. Oop, could you address the due process that is given to every resident that may come under this statute or ordinance?
Yes, thank you. As Mr. Albert indicated, it's still going to maintain a valid 2-prong test, unlike the 3, but it's still 2. What's important, you read the first aspect of the prong, the R aspect. If it meets one or the other, that first prong will be satisfied, meaning no inspection sticker or no registration. If it meets one of those criteria, you then look to the second prong test, as Mr. Albert indicated, of moving it under its own power or not moving in 60 days. That's a lot of requirements there, even to get to the very crux of allowing the inspectors to make the determination. What happens with our office is once the inspectors determine, planning and zoning inspectors determine that it meets this criteria, P&Z sends out letters to the property owner warning them to correct these deficiencies. Very easy to correct it by obtaining the necessary registration, motor vehicle inspection, and getting the vehicle to move. If that gets ignored or is unable to be done, it then comes to my office. And that's what is important for the council and the residents to understand. It doesn't give planning and zoning the authority to go and remove a vehicle right then and there on their own after making their determination. We then in legal write letters to the residents. After, if it's ignored or if it fails to comply, we then have to file litigation. So a judge will look at these criteria. We present our case after filing a lawsuit, serving the homeowner, the property owner. We then have to present all these facts to a judge in the 29 JDC, who then determines if it meets the criteria of a derelict vehicle. Once we get that judgment, we then still wait another 67 days, the appeals time and the motion for new trial time. If the property owner still fails to comply, it allows another 30 days to get into compliance. Failure to do so, we then are able to remove the vehicle from the property, and we submit the cost of doing so in the judgment along with the court cost. That process is not fast. By the time we get through it, file the lawsuit, serve them, wait for the appropriate deadlines to lapse for answering, and we set a trial, you're looking at probably sometimes 6 months to a year. We've had some council members and residents have to go through that process with their neighbors. My point being is that although there's just one minor change, it still takes a lot of loopholes to go through in order for this to be enforced. So there's very much adequate time for the homeowners to get into compliance should they first even receive a letter. So I hope that answers that question.
Yes, thank you, because that's not evident from just looking at the ordinance. So I wanted everybody to know it's a long process, and there's plenty of time to make a correction to either of the two prongs, correct?
And I do want to mention too, I recommend a motion to change the very beginning of the ordinance to correct the grammatical error as Ms. Fonsco is reading. The sticker meets can. I think the word meets could be deleted and just have the sticker can qualify a vehicle. Although it's not the section 1 that's really the part of the ordinance, I think it's still good to go ahead and motion to make that change.
Councilwoman O'Daniels, do you want to make that motion?
Yes. So I'll make a motion to delete the word meets between sticker and can in the ordinance introduction.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman O'Daniels to delete the word meets in the ordinance and leave the word can. File number 2025-0106 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding the amendment, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion regarding the amendment? Okay, seeing none, please cast your votes to amend file number 2025-0106. Okay, that passes unanimously. We're going to now do public hearing file number 2025-01-0106 as amended is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. All right, seeing none, we'll continue with council discussion. Councilwoman Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only question that I had that was asked by someone, does this ordinance here apply to cars that are at service repair shops that have been there for a length of time, not just for a month or however long it takes to fix a car, but for a length of time, maybe for cars that have been there for over a year or so?
I could say technically maybe the ordinance would apply if that vehicle is just sitting in a repair shop on blocks not moving, it becomes a nuisance. Louisiana's revised statutes discuss those aspects when they become fire hazards, danger to minors, because of course those type of things attract minors to go play around them, harbor pest. So it could apply. That being said, I've never had one come up that way in our legal department. If we had that situation, I'm sure we would discuss it with the mechanic shop, know that the vehicle is being worked on. It's in the process. And I'm sure that as long as they're showing that they're complying and moving forward, it wouldn't even get to the level of litigation.
Right. Thank you, Councilwoman Wilson. Councilman Pillier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess when I first got on seat last year, this was one of the first cases that I was faced with, and the people in District 3, I'm not going to name any names or particular neighborhoods, were very upset because somebody had a car sitting across his driveway, not in his driveway, immovable, no engine in the vehicle, and his hood off. And so consequently, the code enforcement people had gone over, they'd written him up in, these one of those cases that took about 6 to 8 months. And by the time the person was supposed to go to court, he gamed the system. Somehow he got the car in his yard behind the fence, and it all went away. But now the car is out there with a cover over it again. And though that may irritate some of the neighbors, I don't think there's much that can be done about a car sitting on a live driveway that has a cover on it. But if it's known, as this one in particular is, not to have an engine in it again, what do? And so this may soften, the need to prove something, to go forward and do something about a derelict car. But in reality, are we going to be able to enforce it any more than what we had in the past? That's a question for you, Mr. Albert.
Certainly. I mean, some of the most difficult cases are when a vehicle is registered but is otherwise inoperable. So it might be lacking its brake tag, missing a wheel, but still be registered, and in that case, we couldn't take action on it. Now, the alteration to the code will allow us to act on that vehicle. I would say we have a good number of those cases every year.
Well, in this particular revision for one small word, or, there was a firestorm on social media and people sending emails and things like that, and I'm not going to be influenced by that personally, so I think this is something that I support doing. But I struggle to see how this is ever going to be truly enforced. Just my opinion.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Pillier. Councilman Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Abbott, I've always been a supporter of cleaning up nuisances. I've done that with a lot of the things in that, and I think I have the same, I guess, mystery on how this is actually going to benefit, or other than confuse people. I do see a state law reference. So, Mr. Ube, I think we have a good precedence there with that. The state law is pretty clear on abandoning a junk vehicle is. And I know this is meant to get rid of the really offensive cases, right? And we understand that. We know what we had in months, how long it took to go through that. But I'm really kind of curious on how your code enforcement officers are truly going to enforce this. Maybe, Corey, you can give me some legal stats about it?
If I may, what's been difficult is code enforcement officers can't necessarily know that the vehicle's registered. They can see it's derelict in their opinion. They can see it meets the state statute. They can see it meets our ordinance. They can see there's no motor vehicle inspection sticker. But to have your car registered every 4 years, it's $25, $50? So people are able to get around the current ordinance simply by just keeping their car registered, which with the state does not question whether there's an engine, doesn't question whether there's tires. That alone was enough to stop us in court, to be honest. I think this gives a lot, it makes it easier for our code enforcement officers to make the determination. As I discussed earlier, it still requires us to go to a court, so a judge can look at all the Other factors, if something's an antique vehicle, if something's a vehicle that's being used to donate to another car, a donor vehicle. So a judge would consider all those aspects. But as it is right now with the current three-prong with the and, it's very difficult. We can go through an entire litigation, and at the very end, the owner who has ignored us for a year brings in a registration and says the car's registered. And it could be multiple vehicles in a yard, and as long as they're registered, we have no teeth. We have no enforcement. This, I believe, gives the parish a lot more ability to remove those blighted, junk, derelict vehicles. It doesn't apply. I know I've read some of the social media, and I don't like getting caught up with it as well, but it doesn't mean you let your insurance lapse or you cancel your insurance. Your vehicle is deemed derelict. As you see, there's no word about insurance in here. It's a situation where that vehicle meets those two prongs and is unable to move on its own power. It doesn't move for those 60 days. I believe I've had discussions with almost every council member here over the past 6 years. This council in the past where there's always been one or two situations in their district. And it's very hard for those code enforcement officers who don't want to go, looking inside a car, can't go into the glove compartment. So it allows us to have that teeth to be able to enforce it and to get the ball rolling to get things fixed. So I think Councilman Fisher, it actually helps get those things corrected.
I'll add.
We shall see.
This was the number one request from all 7 of my staff in terms of making their job easier for dealing with this portion of the code.
Look, I've supported nuisance changes. I've led nuisance changes, and I understand the importance of it. I know we talked about some of our land use stuff. We talked about some of our studies, and we all want to live in a beautiful, clean place, and I understand it. So I hope this helps.
Thank you, Councilman Fisher. Councilwoman DeBrouillet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to clarify, this is visible derelict vehicle. So if it's garage kept or how does...
We would not enforce on that.
Right.
We're not going looking in buildings.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman DeBrouillet. Any other council discussion? All right, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0106 as amended. And that passes unanimously. File number 2025-0107, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a contract with Sea Level Construction, Inc. for Munns Pump Station Number 1, project number P210301, LA Gov number 2000777346, as part of the East Bank West Shore Hurricane Protection Levee System in the amount of $13,479,955,000. Mr. Bingham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a great improvement for Public Works. We need a pump station in this area. It will greatly improve the pumping capacity in this area and do a lot to benefit this neighborhood. At this time, I would like to actually acknowledge Sam Sholey's effort in this. He has been steadfast and consistent in his effort to push this thing forward, and he stuck with it. And I, as the Public Works Director, I greatly appreciate everything that he has done to bring this to this parish. And he's working on the Munns Station, Pump Station Number 2 with the same effort, and that you will see later this year. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands how much he has done to make this happen. So I would appreciate everyone's support on this. And if Mr. Sholey would like to come forward and say a few words, I would give him that opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Miles. I would like to say this particular station is $600,000 under the engineering estimate. Miss Mary Blanchard's here tonight from GIS. Appreciate her coming. She worked very diligently putting the books together, and along with Mr. Corey's department, and also with Miss Andre Ford, and greatly appreciate that. With it being under budget, gives us encouragement that the second station is going to be under budget, which opens the door, the opportunity for us to have the funds to go forward with the upgrade of Sunset. So my prayer is that the second station be under budget, and we'll be able to do the Sunset upgrade as well. And so that's very encouraging. There are over 800 homes in this area and businesses that need to be protected. We're supplying more than 3.5 times the pumping capacity of the existing Prescott station. In reality, it's actually more than 3.5 times because we're not pumping the 680 acres of St. John. We were successful in being able to separate out that watershed. But also, too, we were able to settle the permitting issue with the Prescott pump station. That station's coming out upon completion of the second station, but it affords us the opportunity to settle the issues that we have with landowners there. In fact, we have settled the issues with landowners in that area. It also comes at a time, too, like I said, I want to thank President Jewell for the $10 million in funding. I didn't want to forget that and how hard the grants department worked. But at the same time, the station comes at the time when there's a lot of, decision making that has to be made with West Shore relative to the I-55 station and the issue with the tidal gate. The tidal gate in Prescott is a 10-year rain event structure. It's not a 100-year rain event structure. And I just want to say President Jewell's decision to take both pump stations to the spillway is a very prudent decision. And I just want to make it clear, too, that the two pump stations in Monts are not they are not title exchange stations. There is no title exchange in Monts. And that's an important issue to understand in that sense, because the other outer stations, the stations that we're building on the spillway, are part of the West Shore Outer Levee system. That section of spillway is part of the system, but there is no title exchange requirement on those two stations, which was a requirement previously, which will turn out to be a very important issue for us in that vein, as far as it not being title exchange. And I just want to thank President Jewell and his efforts, and Mr. Miles and his department for their efforts, and appreciate the opportunity.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bingham and Mr. Sholey. File number 2025-0107 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, seeing none, public hearing is closed. Council discussion, Councilman Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I jumped the gun, Matt. I wanted to talk before you. It don't matter. I wanted to do it once. And Miles said it all, right? And I want to say thank you to all of you. You for fighting it. You guys for getting it. You guys for building it. It's something that I really thought I'd never see. A pump station on one side going to the spillway. But, 25 years ago, somebody said the same thing about Norco. And here as we got Engineers Canal. So, and I want residents to know it wasn't an easy battle. Mr. Sam and I had multiple conversations. Matt and I had multiple conversations. Every step of the way, we faced a new challenge. It's something new. Things kind of fell apart with West Shore when Army Corps of Engineers and federal government said we're going to take pump stations away, and we knew this was important. The opportunity presented itself with CPRA, with funding, with our grants department. It shows that we did our due diligence. Our engineering partner, GIS, great renderings, great being on top of everything. Dealing with servitudes, right? So Sam, we battled 1.5 years to get servitude. So I just want people to understand the amount of time and commitment that this administration and these gentlemen and these ladies of their departments put to get this. So this is it. I can't wait for groundbreaking. I can't wait for the first gallon of water that gets pumped. I can't wait for the second one to get done. I'm going to sleep better at night, knowing in the future that, the residents of Muntz are going to have drainage that the rest part of the parish has had. Two newest pump stations to our fleet of pump stations. So, with maintenance and that. So, I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to my past council members and the members here for approving these contracts and seeing the importance that drainage means to everybody. Continue to focus, continue to fight. We're going to do that. We're going to follow the master plan. We're going to take the projects. President Jules committed to do that. We're going to continue to do it and support this councilman. But just a great big thank you. I know it wasn't easy sometimes, but again, I thank you, and I know the residents of District 6 thank you for your hard work.
Just want to say we checked with the Corps today. We were going to do clearing and grubbing immediately, but we decided we have to wait a little bit until we find out what the spillway is, what's going to happen, what's going to open or not. They will allow us to grub, but we can't dig the bypass channel, and we need the bypass channel in order to get a laydown area to bring the crane in. So, so we're encouraged that it's going to move forward quickly, and like I said, we'll eventually be building both stations at the same time, and so that gives us some synergies there also relative to building both at the same time. So,
Okay.
but we are we're kind of at the discretion of the Corps what we can or can't do. Even though we're more than 1,500 feet away, we can't have water up on the toe of the spillway levee. Right now we don't. So if they don't open the spillway, I'm encouraged shortly we'll be able to start digging a bypass canal. We've established a good relationship with the Corps. We're actually working with John Fogarty out there on a daily or at least a weekly basis to establish that relationship to where we'll be able to work with the contractor with sea level and the Corps to build it in a timely manner. And it's important to get them built because as great as West Shore is, it presents its own challenges as far as pumping internally.
Okay, Mr. Sam, we have more council discussion we need to get to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman Fisher. Next is Parish President Jewell.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and I'll just continue with what Bob said. It really took a team effort of people, Public Works, Sam, our GIS team, GIS engineers, ELOS, civics, a whole host of people, and a lot of cooperation from landowners in the area, and then a lot of phone calls to the Corps of Engineers. I would tell you that I never want to do a 408 permit ever again. I think this was our first 408 permit. Is that right, Sam? I would tell you I never want to do one again, but we're already looking to do one for the Engineers Canal pump station project over in Norco. But all of the water comes from the river and drains towards the lake, towards Airline Highway, where these two pumps and their respective sumps are going to be situated, are going to be able to, that's where the water goes. And they're going to be able to get a heck of a lot more water out than what we currently have there now. And as what Sam mentioned, allowing the water that we're currently pumping right now from a separate watershed outside of our parish to drain naturally through the box culverts under Airline Highway is going to be a huge, huge reduction in the total amount of water that we have to pump during these rain events. These are the number one. These two pump stations are the number one drainage master plan recommendation. And I think that's important because this process started with a study to figure out what could we do to solve this problem. And nobody wants to hear the word study. And when we hear government talking about studying, and I'll be the first person to say that when we study something, we should act on it. The studies aren't necessarily bad, but studying does create bureaucracy and repetitiveness that is unnecessary. So I'm glad to say that we've done a study, we've acted on the recommendations. While these pump stations are going, and again, like Mr. Sam said, we're praying for a good bid on pump station number 2. It's an 18-month contract time. We have some other projects that we need to get done, some CN jack and bores along Evangeline Road, some upsizing of culverts along the coulee. We know that there's some issues there when water starts gathering on its journey down the coulee, that it gets bottlenecked in a couple of places. So we know that there are a number of things that need to happen. But I just want to reiterate, if you cannot get the water out of the watershed, it doesn't matter what culverts you have where, the water is going to back up. Even if we don't do some of those other projects, this at least keeps water flowing while that area is trying to drain. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we've got projects going on across the whole parish. So you saw tonight we had a project we had an ordinance or agenda item that was a part of a project in Hawnville. I mentioned projects that were in some various form of the bid process in the Destrehan and Ormond watersheds. So projects are moving. It does take a while for them to get to these points, especially when we have other people involved, other agencies involved, whether it be the railroad or the Corps of Engineers or a granting agency in some cases. So for those of you who are wondering, where is my project at? I can promise you they are coming. We are working on all of these things simultaneously. Unfortunately, they move at different paces because they're all different. So, but it takes the consistent dedication of the administration and the employees here and the council willing to bear with that process and ultimately fund these projects to make them a reality. And I thank y'all for that.
Thank you, Parish President Jewell. Councilman Pillier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to say, this is one impressive piece of work, and credit goes to everybody in Public Works, this entire administration, particularly Mr. Sholey. And you look back in 2021, I believe it was, when the master drainage plan came out for this particular area. And there have been some permutations, some changes. I see the number one problem in St. Charles Parish as being drainage and flood control. And I think that bears things out when you see the types of damage that we've had over the years. So when something like this takes place, particularly when we have a contractor like Sea Level, my God, what a good contractor. I've watched what they've done in 3 different projects. They are first class. So all I can say is fabulous, great job, let's get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Pillier. Councilwoman O'Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to make a statement. I don't think there's any way that people that aren't working on this project can appreciate how quickly this has actually gone as far as the multi-agency interface and all of the challenges that were presented in this particular project. And had somebody told me we're going to be pumping to the spillway, I would have told them they were crazy. But here it is. And Mr. Sam, I want to thank you so much for all your hard work with working through these projects. Public Works, the administration, this is incredible, really is. And I appreciate everybody that's worked on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman O'Daniels. I just want to echo a lot of the things that were said here. You know, having worked in the administration, I don't think that the general public at large really understands the amount of time that it takes to bring a project, especially of this magnitude, to fruition, and especially projects on the outer levee system. Having worked on the levee team with Mr. Sam, I think the word that he used a lot to describe other people is tenacity, but I think he also is very tenacious and stays on all of these projects to get them to reach this point. And all of the other people involved that were mentioned, Public Works, Ms. Ford, the Grants Office, Parish President Jewell, his administration. The other thing I'd like to point out is that the amount of money that is flowing from the CPRA because of the BP oil spill is unprecedented. You know, we struggled just 10 years ago to get a few $1 million here and there. But to get this large sum of money for one project is just incredible. And I think we're seeing that more and more, thankfully. Hopefully they'll keep it flowing. We have, I think, a asset that helps with that, with Parish President Jewell sitting on the CPRA board to help get these projects funded. So definitely want to thank him for his work in helping getting this funding. All right. Any other council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0107. That passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
All right, file number 2025-0108, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a services agreement with Total Energy Solutions, LLC, for the wastewater generator preventative maintenance 2025, project number S250301, in the amount not to exceed $105,280. The administration has requested that file number 2025-0108 be postponed indefinitely. We're going to go ahead and open it up for public hearing, though. File number 2025-0108 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? None. Okay, I do need a motion and a second to postpone indefinitely. Mr. DeGeneres, did you want to speak on this tonight, or? Okay, I'm just wondering. Didn't want to skip you. All right, we have a motion by Councilman Fisher and a second by Councilwoman Skiba. Please cast your votes to postpone indefinitely, file number 2025-0108. And that passes unanimously. File number 2025-0109, an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of amendment number 1 to ordinance number 24-3-7, which approved the professional services agreement with GEC Inc. to perform engineering services for the Hornville Wastewater Treatment Plant capacity upgrades, project number S240201, in the amount not to exceed $908,457. Mr. DeGeneres.
Yes, ma'am. This is the design contract to do the Hornville expansion. We are going to convert it from a activated sludge to MBR plant. So the estimate for the project is right around $14 million. So this is in line.
Okay, thank you. File number 2025-0109 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Councilman Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dave, I see in the scope of design, you're going to retrofit one reactor, and then you're going to add a train, or we're just adding secondary equipment with this design? Is that what?
So what's going to happen is we'll be able to eliminate one whole train. So if you look at the plant, there's 2 aeration basins and 2 settling tanks. So we'll be able to leave one side online while the construction is going on. We'll take one side down. They'll actually put the new filters in the aeration basin and all. And in the clarifier, it'll double our capacity using less footprint, believe it or not. So that way we don't have to bypass anything. We'll be able to go on one side. They'll build the new section. Once the new section's done, we'll be able to take the other section offline completely and just shut it down. And our footprint will actually shrink.
Will this increase capacity?
It will increase the capacity. So we're designing it to increase the capacity by 1 million, with the exception of we're building the infrastructure to add another section of filters that section will remain empty. And then down the line, as we increase our capacity based on growth or whatever, we could go ahead and just insert those filters into that last chamber to bring us up to double. We're at 2.3. We're going to go to 3.3. We'll be able to go to 4 with the 4th cell going in at a later date. So we'll track that as there's no sense in doing it all at one time because we don't need the capacity, but we've built it out to grow to that 4 million MGD.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Fisher. Parish President Jewell.
just want to say that we were looking at doing another wetlands assimilation pond originally, and that wasn't a new idea. The previous administration was also in the early stages of doing that. We looked at a site that was going to be donated to us. When we looked at the mitigation costs and everything else involved with prepping that site and getting it as an acting wetlands assimilation oxidation pond was going to be about $30 million. This is going to be less than half of that cost to, get us in a better situation in a smaller footprint on a site that's already permitted by the DEQ. So I think it's a win-win. Membrane bioreactors are a better form, and I think a lot of places are going to be moving towards this moving forward. The other thing that I'll tell you is that with future energy needs and other potential industries that are currently looking at St. Charles Parish for future projects, we are going to need the capacity. So I think it's the right solution to design it for what we need plus. That way, when we go and have to add that additional capacity, we already have the groundwork done, and we just need to drop it in place into those basins.
Thank you, Parish President Jewell. Any other council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0109. That passes unanimously. File number 2025-0009, an ordinance to approve and authorize the parish president to execute a franchise agreement with Entergy Louisiana, LLC, formerly known as Louisiana Power and Light, its successors and assigns to provide electric power and energy throughout St. Charles Parish, all in accordance with LARS 33:4361. Mr. Yu.
Yes, as the council is aware from the discussions of this similar item on the agenda a few months ago, we made some necessary changes with Entergy, specifically with regard to the term, that now having a initial term of 30 years, beginning May 1st, 2025, with 2 automatic renewals. So it still takes over a 90-year term. The automatic renewals occur unless either party terminates 12 months before that renewal term would begin. So it does allow the parish to terminate this agreement if things aren't working out sufficiently with Entergy, or if Entergy is not liking the franchise agreement with the parish, but it does allow for a full 90 years to happen. Also, in conjunction with the discussions at the last meeting, we also included language specifically in Section 7, noting that Entergy has to comply with all regulations set forth by the Louisiana Public Service Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yu. All right, file number 2025-0009 is now open for public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0009. And that passes unanimously. Persons to address the council. File number 2025-0125, Mr. Eric Zamet, housing construction 50 feet versus 60 feet, ordinance loophole. Mr. Zamet, you have 5 minutes to speak. Okay.
Thank you for having me. There's an ordinance that I'm not totally familiar with, but it's called a non-compliant ordinance, Section 9, where they allow housing construction to go on a 50-foot wide lot rather than a 60. And I think the contractors are basically using a loophole. I'm not sure exactly how it reads, but most houses are on 60-foot lots. That's the requirement. And if you go and look down the street from my house, they built 4 houses on one lot. And, this 50 foot, and if you look at these houses and how they're circumventing it, it's a fire hazard. It's more people, more traffic on the street, and it doesn't look aesthetically good in the neighborhood, and I just don't think that contractors should be allowed to build apartment style housing in neighborhoods by circumventing, an ordinance. I think that basically housing should be, the 60 foot, and by saying that you buy some property and sell it to a family member, and that way you can build it on 50 foot is just purposely messing up the neighborhood, and I'd like to see something done about it.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zammit. Ms. Albert, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
All I would say is the non-conforming section allows lots to be developed that are substandard. They still have to meet the requirements of the property, and the 60-foot lot width requirement is really a requirement for the creation of properties, not the utilization of properties. Many neighborhoods in this parish were developed far before zoning, and even in this section on Wanda Street, because I had looked into this a little bit, many of the houses are built on two 50-foot lots for 100 foot of frontage. In the 4 parcel area that I believe Mr. Zammit is talking about, the lots are 50 foot in width. They have alternating ownership. If they did not have alternating ownership, if they were all owned by one entity, then we would have required them to be consolidated to make a conforming lot prior to building. But because they were purchased by alternating ownership, that requirement does not come in to play at that point. I think that's all I have for the moment.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Albert.
If you go further down, at the 200 block, you'll see not only where those 4 houses, but where 2 houses were built, and those are, also real congested, and with the fence, the kids coming out on the bikes. It's just, I don't know why we're allowing, to go outside to stay out. Now I can understand, new housing at 60 foot, but I mean, why should a developer be allowed to come in and, get a 100-foot lot and build these 2 big houses, right next to these other houses? What you can say, you got more concrete, and I know the drainage is decent, but still, you got the runoff and everything else, and I really think it's a fire hazard. I mean, it would be very difficult to contain a fire between those 4 houses, or the ones that were developed, further up. And I kind of know for a fact, I think they brought some property right there on St. Anthony, and I think they're willing, to do the same thing, just, a couple of houses down. And it's very upsetting to all the neighborhood, the people in the neighborhood. So, we're not happy.
Okay,
I
Mr.
could
Zammit.
get a list and go down there, and I'm sure it would be several hundred people that would be saying, hey, man, this isn't right. So.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Zammit. Do you have Councilwoman DeBrouillet?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This Wanda Street is in District 7, which is my district, and I did drive by, to take a look at the area that you're referring to, and I was really surprised because I would not say that they were apartment style at all. They were brand new homes, single family homes. Not huge. Similar, yeah, they're very similar, but I know 2 of them sold, one at $369,000, another at $375,000, and it looks like the other 2 are still under construction. So it's actually, compared to the homes that are selling in that area, they're certainly raising the value of the homes. Yes, sir. And very well maintained, looks very clean, and, I think most of the homes on that street are more of a ranch style, which was back in the time, where they were longer, in the front. So it is a more modern home, as far as the aesthetics. So I think, that's probably a personal opinion, I guess, as far as, the likes or dislikes. Parking seems ample, more than what you would find in an apartment, for a single family home, a young family.
You got 4 houses sitting with right there.
Mr. Zima, if Councilwoman DeBrouillet is wanting to converse with you, I need you to come back to the microphone.
You got driveways almost right next to each other. I mean, if they decide to have a big party and somebody else does, which we allow, parking on the street, you're putting a lot more people in that small neighborhood. And there's not a person in Mimosa that thinks those high roofs and those style of housing looks good there. And I think it's also a fire hazard. So I totally disagree with you.
I think probably, again, something I noticed as I was on the street, there are some houses that you have 3 and 4 cars parked on the front lawns, which I think is, to me more concerning as far as aesthetics and, that, again, you're bringing value to your street here, with the new homes.
And then they're going to build 2 more right there on St. Anthony behind. I disagree. What I'm going to do is just, I don't know if y'all want to address it or bring it out, but I can just say this, that this is not over. I will run against you.
Excuse me, Mr. Zima. You have to stick to the topic. Thank you. All right, resolutions. File number 2025-0121. A resolution in support of the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval of 2025-1-SPU for an accessory dwelling unit in an R1A zoning district on Lot 124 Shamrock Park, Phase 2 subdivision, 132 Edna Drive, Des Allemands, as requested by Carla Chasson. Mr. Albert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This request is for an accessory dwelling unit. It meets all of the requirements for the ADU as well as a special permit use. The department as well as the Planning Commission recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. File number 2025-0121 is now open for public comment. If there's anyone who would like to come up and speak regarding this item, please do so now. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Any council discussion? Seeing none, please cast your votes for file number 2025-0121. And that passes unanimously. Appointments. File number 2025-0117, a resolution appointing a member to the Hospital Service District Number 1, Parish of St. Charles. On Monday, May 5th, 2025, Council Chairman will accept nominations to the Hospital Service District Number 1, Parish of St. Charles, to fill the vacancy created by the expiration of the term of Mrs. Karen Rayron. 6-year term to begin May 22nd, 2025 and expire May 22nd, 2031. File number 2025-0118, a resolution appointing a member to the Hospital Service District Number 1, Parish of St. Charles. On Monday, May 5th, 2025, Council Chairman will accept nominations to the Hospital Service District Number 1, Parish of St. Charles, to fill the vacancy created by the expiration of the term of Ms. Pamela W. Smith. 6-year term to begin May 22nd, 2025 and expire May 22nd, 2031. File number 2025-0119, a resolution appointing a member to the St. Charles Parish Planning and Zoning Commission as the District 2 representative. On Monday, May 5th, 2025, Council Chairman will accept nomination to the St. Charles Parish Planning and Zoning Commission from the District 2 council member to fill the vacancy created by the expiration of the term of Mr. Randy P.T. Jr. 4-year term to begin May 31st, 2025 and expire May 31st, 2029. File number 2025-0121, a resolution appointing a member to the St. Charles Parish Planning and Zoning Commission as the District 3 representative. On Monday, May 5th, 2025, Council Chairman will accept nomination to the St. Charles Parish Planning and Zoning Commission from the District 3 council member to fill the vacancy created by the expiration of the term of Mr. Webb J. 4-year term to begin May 31st, 2025 and expire May 31st, 2029. Meetings, announcements, notices, etc. Meetings. Housing Authority, Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. Hospital Service District Number 1, Wednesday, April 30th, 2025 at 2 p.m. in the council chambers. Planning and Zoning Commission, Thursday, May 1st, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. St. Charles Parish Council will meet again on Monday, May 2nd, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the council chambers. May 5th. Excuse me, that is May 5th. I was about to check that myself. So that's a correction. Council will next meet on Monday, May 5th, 6 p.m., council chambers. Adjournment. A motion and a second are needed to adjourn. We have a motion by Councilman Fisher, second by Councilwoman O'Daniels. Please cast your votes to adjourn. And that passes unanimously. Have a great evening. We are officially adjourned.
Officially.